Why, hello everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the XboxEra Day 1 Game Pass show. This will be a little breakdown of recent and maybe hidden gem style Game Pass games where I will talk with some members from the team, see what they've been playing. They'll each bring one game to me. We'll have a, 5 to 15 minute chat, and I'll try and do this twice a month. If you want to get to see this right away, every patron member gets 3-day early access before it goes live on the YouTubes. Patreon.com/XboxEra if you're interested. This week, I have Sikamikanico talking to me about Jusant. I have Genghis talking to me about the Ace Attorney Trilogy. FairyEmpire, aka Gyozo, will be talking about Headbangers Rhythm Royale. And Rare, aka Jared, will be talking about Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who changed his name. Gonna have a hard time fitting that down there. Opening segment, pretty much just going over all the most recent stuff that's been added into Game Pass. We got Dungeons 4, Football Manager 2024 on PC and console, Man Who Erased His Name on everything, Spirit Tea on everything, Thirsty Suitors on everything, War Tales on everything, Wild Hearts on everything for Game Pass Ultimate members, and Coral Island coming out on console. Surprised that one's not on PC. And Dungeons was on everything. The two surprises were War Tales and Wild Hearts. So that is everything that's just hit Game Pass. The tenor for this show is going to try to be a little after each drop. So a little breakdown, what's happened, what's coming at the end. But for now, we are going to go to Sikamikanico and talk about Jusant. Why, hello. I am joined, of course, by Editor-in-Chief, the John Sikamikanico Clark. John, how you doing?
Hey, guys. I'm good, Jesse. I'm good. This is a new endeavor.
Yeah, our inaugural XboxEra Day 1 Game Pass show, where we go over new releases, older releases, and we shoot the shit about them, about more in-depth discussions.
Is it worth playing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than let Nick make the same point like 8 times, we'll take him off of the beaten path, and we can get into a game we're playing for once instead of it. Hey, I'm going to start talking and then get cut off so we can go back on a Nintendo tangent. So it's nice. Yes, it's pleasant. I'm pleased to be here. And today we're talking about Don't Nod's newest title, and I'll do my best French impression. Jusant.
Mm-hmm. They're very particular about that enunciation on
they are
their review guide. They're like, hey, it means this, the ebbing tide, and you say it this
ebbing
way.
Or receding tide. Jusant. It's a wonderful little game. And
it's a departure for them too, really. Like they were very into the...
They did Life is Strange, right?
Yeah, they were in the narrative scape, and then they did Vampire, which was very different. But then this is very different from... Whereas Vampire was an action RPG with very weird combat. I don't know if you ever played Vampire.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah, same either. But
they're a great dev team.
Mm-hmm. And I love how
Jusant is
varied they are.
Yeah, and they have real talent, right? And I actually saw a really great tweet from Jeff Grubb who said, anytime I've talked to anyone at Don't Nod or I've talked to fans of the games, like they've always come across as they know exactly what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's just that their games haven't been for me. So like I think that's him saying, Life is Strange did very well and people like Vampire, but they weren't for me. But Jusant, now I get it, right? Mm-hmm. And all of that narrative style building that they did in Life is Strange is here and present and correct, but in a very, very different delivery method. So Jusant, for those living under a rock, is their newest title. It's hit the Game Pass. It is all about climbing. And it's a prime example of a development team that have gone, I wonder if we've, this climbing mechanic feels real good. And they've just made a game about it. Like they've not built a skill tree. You haven't got to unlock more climbing gear.
You can't even fall.
You can't even die. It is such a chilled out game, which is right up my alley. Right. So they've really nailed this tactile feel. So for context, the triggers are your right and left hands, and effectively you're just scrambling up the rock face. So as you holding the right and left, you're holding the rock holds, you let go of left trigger, your hand will come up, you move the left stick, it'll come up, and then you can press the left trigger, and you just alternate. So you're doing this. I feel like an idiot doing this in real life right now.
And as you're holding the stick, you'll reach different directions, and you can go over yourself, and it feels darn good the whole time.
When it works, right? And I'll be clear, I kind of, sorry, some traffic outside. It doesn't always work, but it works 99% of the time. There are occasions during my playthrough where your character kind of did a bit of a weird spasm or got stuck, but because it is just that core control element, it kind of sorts itself out, and you can forgive it for anything else. But it's the way it uses that, and just the simple premise of, you've got to get from here to here. That's the game. You've got to go from down here as high as you can go and solve this mystery while you're going there. And you're getting all of this world building delivered to you via letters, via just, what you see around you. If this died, that's not a word, but it is, but not in this context. This dying or dead world, all the people that came before you, what happened? And you kind of piece together all of this as you're going up, and you encounter bits of life. And I don't want to give away the story. The story is actually really good, really lovely.
Not shocking with a Don't Nod game when they nail the story.
No, and there is a bit of suspension of disbelief, but it's it was really nice. And there's obviously some commentary there on the world today and climate change and things like that. But I genuinely, I really enjoyed it. And it's, you know me, I often
you're Mr. Indie. You're our indie guy.
I'm less indie than perhaps Harmy was. Because
I think you and I are
lots of indies.
We're the more mixed. We'll both play most indies, but still gravitate to the bigger stuff. Harmy was that bigger stuff. Give me these beautiful, gorgeous
indie games.
And Jusant is quite pretty, both on console and PC.
It is. It's not. It reminded me a lot of the Falconeer, funnily enough. It does have texture work, but it's very bold splashes of color and
vibrant.
And, big blobs of it to form the detail. And it works, the main character. I don't know why she's wearing a pair of cool 80s trance shades. She's off to a disco or a rave something. And you don't really know much about the main character, right? She's got these tattoos. And I say she, the character comes across as feminine to me. But it's not defined.
It's not important. It's just where people look at things, and we look at it that way. But in the context of the game, what I got, it was just, it is what it is. Yeah. And you're not alone on this journey. You've got this adorable,
and every game has this companion mechanic, right? And often the companion mechanic is just a gameplay delivery mechanism. And in this instance, this little creature, which I found out after I'd written the review, is called Ballast. And it can crawl up on your head and have a look around and give you this vague sense of direction. It doesn't point the way, but it gives you an idea. Hey, over there somewhere. And you can pet it, so it will come up and it will nuzzle you, or you can ooh, this like all of these games with companions should do. But it's lovely, and it's got the biggest power it's got this echo thing, which is almost reminiscent of an underwater mammal going ooh, with a sonar ping. And it responds to the world. The world responds to this ping, and you can bring certain plant life back together, which can assist you in climbing. It brings these vines to life, which start going on. And one of the fun gameplay mechanics is you'll see this little vine that's not grown yet, and you'll kind of launch on and then press the ping button, and off it will go, and you'll just hold on for dear life as it works its way up the rock face. But it doesn't outstay its welcome. The core gameplay mechanic that they're designed around climbing is polished enough that it doesn't get tiring, it doesn't get boring, and by the end of the game, I feel satisfied. You know, I found out more or less what happened to the world, and I found out how to save it. And you know, I don't want to spoil it any more than that. It's a really great little Game Pass game, and I'd wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah, one of the ones. It is one of those things. It's like if it wasn't on Game Pass, if it was, even if it's $30, it's hard to ever try these out because there's so many. Like there are so, especially this year. There's probably been like 2,000 or 3,000 games released on most of the consoles.
It's nuts.
And there's hundreds of them that are legitimately fantastic. And thankfully, we have a good reason to make sure we check out Game Pass games. But it is that facilitator for a lot of people that I know, like Jeff Grubb and among others, were like, I probably would not have tried this out if it wasn't on Game Pass. So, and you really love the music in it, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, one of the biggest shout outs I've got to give. It strong Ori and the Will of the Wisps vibes, like where the core personality of the world is not just in its graphical fidelity or the story it's trying to tell or the feel you get from moving through it, but this music adds so much to it. And the developers were kind enough, you know, we reached out to them while I was building the video review, and I captured an absolutely shed ton of 4K footage. I was like, oh my god, like by the time I completed it, I'd heard a lot of the soundtrack, and there are some seriously banging tracks. Like they absolutely slap. The one called Ballast, I used it in the video review towards the end. It's got this really like triumphant build to it because you are building to something. And again, it's story related, that particular build, but it was so good. I just like had to try and sneak it into the review somewhere. But you can get the soundtrack, I believe.
We got it on Steam.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you could buy it some places too. They normally do.
Yeah, like
for them, their codes they can give tend to be the gaming related ones, so that's why we got it there. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I'll double check and look.
It is on Spotify as well.
Okay.
And 100% check it out. And it's obviously very French. You know, there's lots of French words in there. But it's really good. Like the whole thing is just, and this is the world of video games that I truly admire and love. And you can tell this climbing mechanic's really cool. And this is where the games come from. This is where it's all been born from. And that's it. It's one and done. We don't need any more. You know, it's done. It's like old school movies that weren't franchises. They were just these one and done things. And now we have game deliveries like that. And I love the world that we live in, where you can spend 20 hours on, you know, playing through Alan Wake or Spider-Man 2 or whatever, and then it's just like a little palate cleanser before you have something else to eat, and you're just like, oh, I'll just play this, and it's 5 hours and you're done. But it was a great 5 hours, and I've enjoyed it.
And there's been like, if you go through, that has been a lot of my reviews have been shorter indie games in between the big long spend 150 hours playing Diablo 4 for 2 weeks to have a save that disappears type of reviews. Every once in a while you get these, especially it's nice with Game Pass, I think, for a lot of people, because it is harder. Like even an incredible game last year, like Rogue Legacy 2 comes out, and what happens to it? It doesn't set the world on fire, even though it's incredible, because there's just so much. And keeping up with it all, like Dave the Diver came out this year. It's awesome. But it's only on PC. Just hit Switch. By the time it comes, like they've got it. Figuring out the timing on releases for things like this is just so important. And the one time
I think
I was gonna say the one time it matters a little less is when you get something like this on Game Pass, because then anyone can just look at it and go like, oh, I can just, it's not that big. It's not that long. I can do this in a weekend.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's nice to see. I think there's obviously some good curation, whoever the team is at Microsoft that's curating the deals that go on to Game Pass and what they pick and choose, etc., etc. They're doing a great job. Slightly reminiscent of Summer of Arcade. I think you're always going to get like sort of like the prestige indies appearing on occasion. You know, much like Cocoon that came out earlier before it was another one that was really nailing it. And I always keep my ear to the ground on these sort of things and get arty-farty with it. So yeah, for fans of the genre of smaller, non-threatening, very chilled out, lots of just peaceful vibes, and just enjoying the atmosphere and not feeling under threat or under pressure. It's a nice game to just be able to play through. And one of the best design aspects of it is it doesn't hold your hand too much. Hey, you can climb. That's it. Like, it will point the camera direction in the way you got to go. Guess what? It's up.
Occasional reminder, by the way, put down your carabiner so that if you drop, you don't drop that far. That's about it.
Yeah. But you start to learn, okay, I need to get over there. And it won't like slaver things in yellow paint, but it will kind of be like, you can swing, and then you could like rappel down and run across the rock face and then do a jump, and you start to think, I could do this, and you can kind of sometimes muddle your way up in ways that maybe you shouldn't have gone. But it works, and it works really, really well. So massive shout out to Don't Nod for an excellent game to add on to your Game Pass queue. Definitely recommend.
Their next one I wish was coming to Game Pass. It's that Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. I'm really, really curious about that one because I've liked pretty much everything they've done, at least from a quality standpoint. And yeah, I'm about an hour into Jusant. So Jusant. So maybe a sixth of the way in. Yeah, Jusant.
Yeah, it's a good one to stream on as well because it's just like puzzles. And
you want a nice chill, relaxed stream. You lay back, you just have the controller, half fall asleep.
Yeah.
another Game Pass 60 Metacritic, 80 something Metacritic banger, because that's what most of them have been this year.
No Game Pass fodder this time. No. Quite right.
And no Game Pass fodder most of the time. Crazy.
No, I know. I was being facetious, but for listeners, I recommend it, man. Like, go watch the review. I've been spoiler free. I give a tiny glimpse of a late game biome, but that's pretty much the only spoiler in the game, and it's not really a spoiler. It's like a little. That's it. I'm not going to show you any more, but I wanted to mention it because it looks so cool. So go have a read, go have a watch, or if this description and discussion is enough for you, just click the button on your Game Pass app, and away you go. And look forward to reading everyone's thoughts in the forum.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining me, John. I'm sure I will have you on far more than Nick. Maybe we'll talk about Cocoon or something again sometime. But, thank you for joining me.
Yeah. No worries.
All right. To the next segment. Hello again, everyone. Welcome. I am joined by FairyEmpire, a.k.a. First name I can never pronounce correctly, so I just feel terrible.
It's Gyozo. Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't been on live. Well, it's not really live this time. It's pre-recorded, but yeah.
Yeah, we're doing our first pre-recorded show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, because I wanted to. I do think next year I would like to do like more group stuff. I just need my internet back, kind of, so I can host again. Because I'm doing all this shit on a hotspot. But hey, we are here to talk about Headbangers Rhythm Royale, a game you reviewed that's on Game Pass on everything, cloud console and PC. This is the inaugural episode of the Day One Game Pass show. And so I had to have one of our most prolific reviewers on to talk about a recent release. So Headbangers Rhythm Royale is a up to 30-player pigeon rhythm-based Royale. Tell me about
it. That sums it up. So it's basically a battle royale game. It's closer to something like Fall Guys than Fortnite, for example, because you have different rounds. Like you start out with 30 players, and there's a mini game. People compete in various rhythm-based mini games with these Fall Guys-esque pigeons. And the last 10 players get eliminated, so it's down to 20, then it's down to 10, then it's down to 5, and there's this final minigame with 5 players, and which decides, obviously, who's going to win. So in terms of structure, it's definitely more like Fall Guys, as I said. And a huge difference, of course, is that everyone's basically playing on their own. It's like playing against ghosts. You don't move a character, you don't cross other people, you don't get to punch each other. You do your own minigames, rhythm-based minigames, shooting games, timing-based. We'll talk about the kind of games that are in there. And the scores are assigned, the timings are decided and everything. And the winners go through and the losers go home. It's simple as that.
So, like, for the types of mini games it has, like, what would be your favorite out of them, and how does it work?
Oh well, there's I think there's something like 23 mini games right now, and more are coming in future patches as well. I think they already announced the season 2 starting next month, but yeah, let's not rush through that just yet. So yeah, there's a very different kind of mini games. Like a couple are basically like Salmon Says, that you have to imitate an AI character that do certain moves. These are pigeons with a long neck, so it's usually basically the pigeon moving the head up, down, left, or right, and you have to imitate the timing, the exact movement that they do, the order. So it's about imitating that as well as you can. So that's I think there's like 2 mini games of this sort. In one of them, it's like you have to imitate a pigeon singing, and the other one is like yoga moves. So you have to imitate the yoga moves done by this instructor. But yeah, there's also very different ones as well, because closer to rhythm game mini games, when you just have to press the right buttons at the correct time, or others where you have to press the buttons as fast as possible. So, for example, the game shows you a succession of 5 notes, and whoever presses them fastest is actually the one who wins. So there's that. There's also a very funny one, which is Wild West themed, where the players are playing duels against each other, 1v1. And there's a character, an AI character, playing different sounds in quick succession, like on top of each other. Basically, I don't know, like cows, dogs, ring bells, whatever you can think of. And meanwhile, you have to wait for the right sound. Like, for example, it displays the icon of a telephone, so you keep hearing this barrage of sounds, and then as soon as you hear the correct sound that's displayed, you have to press the button faster than your opponent. So it's basically like it's basically like a pistol duel, right? You just whoever presses the trigger faster wins. But it has to be kind of right.
You get code is. They must be using like rollback or something, because that sounds very, when it's so timing based. But if you're just playing against random people, I guess there's no real way to know if you were actually faster or not. But if you're playing with friends,
yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that's calculated locally and then just transmits to the server, because it doesn't. It takes like a second or two to declare the winner. So I'm pretty sure there's not really an issue with the netcode there. You just play your own thing. As I said, most of the time you're playing solo effectively. Like, you see other players, what they're doing. Sometimes power-ups pop up. So the faster player who catches the power-up basically gets to disturb the others. Like, there's this animation of a pigeon sneezing on the screen, so you have all this disgusting snot on the screen. It's cartoony, so it's fine. No, don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a goofy-looking game. How was it? I know it was weird to review it, because as a Royale game, playing it early, how was it just, I imagine, mostly playing solo against AI most of the time?
Yeah, pretty much. What I did during the review window was matchmaking, basically. I tried to find other people. Sometimes, oh, hey, kitty. Okay, so sometimes yeah, I can relate to that. So anyway, sometimes I find a player or two. I think I have a couple clips in the review with other people. But the thing is, if the game doesn't find enough players, it has to be 30 players. But if it doesn't find 30 players after a minute or two, it just fills up the lobby with bots. So that's pretty good, because between crossplay, a Game Pass launch, and of course AI bots, I don't think there's going to be an issue of the game not being playable or taking too long to play for quite some months, maybe years, who knows.
Yeah, especially with the nature of the mini games and the way they work, not having to have really good connection between people. It's just the people sending probably their timestamps to the server. So at that point, probably don't really have you don't have to worry about latency or lag between people. It's just making sure it gets the right timestamp to the server. So, and seemingly they have a plan for adding in content consistently over time, which is always the key thing in anything like this, because we've seen there are so many service games lately, and even especially the biggest ones have so much trouble having a roadmap. But something smaller like this, if they have it at the start, even like talking about Fall Guys, they didn't really have that much. I don't think they were expecting it to take off, and by the time they got there, it's still big, but it hadn't really kept it. And I'm curious, from what I saw in your review and the things, I wonder if this one ends up having the type of growth over time, because it seems to have a really solid base to it.
Yeah, for now it's a pretty solid. It doesn't really have any microtransactions for now. It has to be said, of course, this is a paid game. It's like $20 for starters. Obviously, it's a Game Pass Day 1 game, so if you're subscribed to Game Pass, you have it. But of course, if you're playing on PC or PlayStation, or Steam PC, not Game Pass PC, you have to buy it. It costs like $20. There's a deluxe edition with all kinds of cool skins for your pigeons. That's like $30. And currently we're into season 1, and you can unlock stuff simply by just playing. You just hop online, play with other people. Whether you win or lose, you gain XP, you complete challenges. There's various sets you can unlock by completing certain challenges. There's obviously the rotating in-game shop, think Fortnite and all the usuals, except for now without any actual monetization. I guess that's something that might come in the future if the game is popular enough.
It just came to Forza Horizon 5, so I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up coming in the future.
Yeah, it's anything can happen. But yeah, for now it's pretty good. You play for, I don't know, like an hour, and you can already afford like the most expensive item in the shop. So that's not too bad for now. Of course, it's a rotating shop, so some items go out after like 24 hours. So maybe you lose out on something you want if you don't play at the right time. So that's kind of the catch, I suppose. It's pretty decent. Of course, it's a freebie for Game Pass owners, so I don't think there's any complaint about that for us.
The only other thing I would have to ask you then, because that sounds good. Anything else you've recently played in Game Pass you'd like to give a shout out for people to maybe check?
Oh wow! To
put
be
you
honest,
on the spot.
I haven't. Yeah, exactly. I haven't played too many Game Pass.
We've been reviewing
right
too
now
much,
because
man.
yeah,
I know.
even the things that I'm not reviewing, like, geez, like, there's Alan Wake. I'm still finishing Assassin's Creed Mirage. I only just started Spider-Man on PlayStation, but there's I also bought Mario, Super Mario Wonder on the Switch. It's just nonstop. But yeah, I think the most I played on Game Pass recently, even though I played that before launch, that was Forza Motorsport. I spent plenty of time with that, and I intend to spend a lot more with that. I'm gonna assume most of us watching have at least tried that, because it's obviously one of Microsoft's mainline titles there.
I'm not a big track racer. I am more the Forza Horizon, so I normally do that one. But this is by far the most I just want to keep racing because it feels so good. And there's been so much talk about the graphics over and over again, even though it is stunning, but realistically stunning, which I think has gotten to some people because they're not always getting their baked in gorgeous lighting. But just the way driving in that game feels, even just on a controller, is like unreal. It's so fun.
Yeah, and especially compared to Forza Motorsport 7, obviously that's by now 6 years old game, so that's a lot for a game that used to come out every 2 years, right? And it's just a huge improvement, right? The way the tires feel on the asphalt, the way the track evolves as the temperature changes, the weather changes. You can still use the similar tricks, right? You can throw the car into the turn in a similar way that you did in previous Forza games, but at the same time,
unless it's raining. Oh god.
Yeah, exactly. It feels definitely more authentic and generally more reliable. Yeah, it's a great feeling, which is why personally I give it a pretty high score, despite a couple modes being a little bit boring. Like I would have revamped the single player mode a bit more. The multiplayer is a little bit basic, but it gets jumped on. Plus, I had a couple crashes, stuff like that. But personally, I had a very, very good time with that. So, if you're one of the 3 people who haven't played Forza Motorsport and Game Pass yet, definitely check that one out. So, yeah, I've been meaning to check out. You're gonna pronounce that one, that other game with the very complicated name that just came out.
Like
one
Dragon
to my name.
Gaiden.
No, the other one. Jusant
Jusant. Ju.
Oh yeah,
the S, the Ju makes a Ju. Jusant. Jusant.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm
probably way off still. All the French speakers are going to yell at me a lot. But hey, thank you for coming on. This is our inaugural episode. You review and cover so much for us. You'll probably be on a lot, and so I'll be calling on you many more times. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Let us know, obviously, if there's anything you want us to cover, to change, anything. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, this is a learning experience, trying to do something new. Patrons, you're getting this 3 days early, as you know, and you can always hit us up in the comments, either Patreon or YouTube, if you have any more suggestions. But on to the next one. Thank you, Fairy.
All right, thanks for having me. Bye.
Hello, this is Genghis. How you doing, Genghis?
Hello, I'm doing well, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing good. Genghis is the guy who pretty much keeps up with me in work on the site between all the reviews and being pretty much our news guy. How you doing? Yes. You don't have to go. You can go yes. Genghis is here. Your best is very good. He's here today to talk with us about Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, which joined Game Pass. What was it, about a month or two ago? About a month, I think. Out of nowhere. That was one of the surprise ones I had to quickly throw into the day one video.
Yeah.
So I have never played a Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney game. Could you please give me a quick rundown about what they're like?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. So, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, this trilogy came out on Game Pass about a month ago, but the game actually launched on Xbox, I want to say, a couple years back.
It was a couple years back, and it didn't sell. Remember they said it sold like $10,000 or $1,000 or something. It was like, yeah, when you dump things on there real late.
Not even.
It was really, it was like hundreds. It was something really bad.
I don't even think it did 10,000. I think it did about 2,000. It was bottom of the barrel. To the point where I think it all came from the Capcom leak documents. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but I think they literally wrote Xbox is a non-viable platform for this series. So I thought that was a big oof, you know.
Yeah,
but that's kind of the thing.
When they take a long time to actually finally put something there, and then they just sort of dump it. When it's already, like, a lot of the people who would want to play it have probably already played it in other places, and I do think finally getting it on Game Pass was good, because it's that I was never going to play this before, and now I try it out, I'm like, ooh, this is pretty great effect, which I actually kind of wish Spike Chunsoft would do more. Like, I got into AI the Somnium Files because of it being on Game Pass, but then the sequel didn't go there, and they just have kind of stopped releasing stuff. I get emails from them all the time, and it's Nintendo Switch release, and that's it. And like, definitely feel like this one has gotten more of a lease on Xbox Life with Game Pass. So if you could continue your rundown, and I won't interrupt you again.
Oh no. It's a good thing you brought that up, because I do think that, honestly, visual novels on Xbox kind of sort of don't exist, and when they do, they're primarily focused on the Asian audience, whether that's Japan or Hong Kong and whatnot. So, when you dump a game like Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy onto Xbox with no fanfare, with no, I think maybe just one trailer on YouTube for advertising, no one was really going to buy it. It really should have launched on Game Pass, and now it's here. So, thankfully, the next set of games, the Apollo Justice Trilogy, will be coming next year onto Xbox. Hopefully that sells a lot better. But I digress. We'll touch on that when it comes. So the Ace Attorney Trilogy, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, is a set of point-and-click visual novel style adventure games. So you play as Phoenix Wright, an evergreen lawyer whose first case starts with defending his best friend. His best friend is being accused of murdering his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, I believe. I played the games a whole bunch, but I can't quite remember the specific details. But he's being accused, and you were going to defend him against a very weird prosecutor and a wacky cast of characters that will more or less make your life difficult as you try to figure out what went on behind the scenes. So the best way I can describe these games is you'll spend a lot of time in the courtroom, a Japanese-style courtroom where you have the lawyer, the defense, that's you, on the left side, prosecution on the right side, and, in the middle, whoever is being interrogated. But outside of those, you are typically either exploring the crime scene, going back and forth between areas, trying to piece together what potentially happened, and why you're, I don't know my lawyer jargon, but the person you're defending is innocent.
Client, I would wager.
And these
client.
games are just right. Client, I think, yeah, that would probably work. So the reason I enjoy these games a bunch is because they're. It's not so much. How do I put this in the best possible words? They're not super deep. They're not, they're not kind of cases where, I should have remembered this very thing from the beginning of the case to help me. It's all about deciphering the clues from the evidence that you have, and checking out the statements that your forgot his name again. The person at the stand is spewing out, and just match them. Right. Or
person on the stand would be shit. I can't remember. Maybe I'll.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I mean, it's not. This isn't true lawyer stuff or anything. If anything, the courtroom's almost always an uproar in the Ace Attorney games. When I say wacky characters, I don't mean that in the in the weakest sense. These characters exist primarily to make Phoenix Wright's job harder by either saying or recounting events incorrectly over and over again. And they do get bad. Some cases later on in these games do get slightly annoying, as that you clearly point out this guy's lying about something, and then the judge is like, "Are you sure about this witness?" Oh, that's the word, I think, witness. And the witness is like, "Oh, right. Now I remember." And they'll do this 3 or 4 times until finally they get ousted off. But the writing is top notch. It's these games were first released in Japan on the Game Boy Advance, and then localized around the time the Nintendo DS launched. A few years later, I can't quite remember. That's where I actually got into the games. The localizations were awesome, although they did have that one problem of these games are very Japanese, and they were essentially Americanized with this localization, and you can kind of tell as you play. But that doesn't make the characters any less charming, any less fun to listen to, or, you know, whether you feel bad for their plights. I'm trying to remember a specific case here. There's one case, a lot of people don't like this one in the second game, where you investigate a murder that has occurred at a circus. And no spoilers, but I do feel like that case was handled really well. And the person who was responsible for all that happened, I felt bad for them. And yeah, I wish more people would like that case, but I also kind of understand that the pacing of it wasn't all that there. But yeah, anyway, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy games, if you enjoy outlandish, super entertaining adventure titles where you click around every single inch of the room to find what's what something could potentially be, if you like matching and deciphering clues to point out falsehoods in statements and whatnot, and what was my last one? What was my last? Well, we can forget that last point. They're great games. I do think the Trilogy collection looks really great in 4K. They redid when they ported the games to mobile, those assets were kind of fixed because in the mobile versions they were kind of busted and all. And now those assets are, on the big screen. They look great. I believe the audio was touched up as well. So highly recommend that you play the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy if you like visual novels or point-and-click adventure style games.
We want to get more Capcom stuff into Game Pass, especially. They do seem more in doing Monster Hunter Rise, and Kinitsugami, Path of the Goddess is coming, and Exoprimal, Ace Wright Trilogy. It's been nice to see, but I would like to see more of the smaller stuff, like that was a Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective. Like they've got so many more little out there types of games that would be really cool to see in Game Pass. So if you like anime, I would say style shenanigans, then and you are into visual novels, this sounds like it would be right up your alley. And as someone who really wasn't into visual novels, when I got into the AI Somnium Files games, I was like, oh shit, yeah, these actually can be pretty fantastic when they're well done. Outside of the funny ones like Catapult Boyfriend and the friggin' crazy murder, fourth wall breaking one. I can't remember the name of it. Christ.
Danganronpa?
No,
is that
the one that's the one that was an American guy, I think. The high school girls.
Doki
Doki Literature Club. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw that for a bit.
Yeah, Doki Literature Club is very good. It's better on PC because it gets a little meta in a way that you can't do on a console, like going in and having to physically delete a text file from the game install type of weirdness. But yeah, shit, you might have sold me on playing some Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, because I like me anime wackiness, and I like me a good visual novel. God damn it, I don't have any time. One last thing. Would you have any game that is on Game Pass that you might recommend people check out that's like a smaller little thing that maybe snuck by or is a little older that people might not have checked out if they just got an Xbox? Put you on the spot.
Smaller. Gosh.
It could even be something big, just old that people might not think of. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I've got another one to recommend. It's a couple years old now. I think I want to say 9 years old. Well, it launched on the Nintendo 3DS about 9 years ago, and came on Xbox about a year or two back. Gosh, I can't remember. But it's called Rune Factory 4. And Rune Factory 4, I love this series. When I was a kid, you might have realized it with me talking about Phoenix Wright, but then I spent so much time on that console, and one of the series that ate my life up was Rune Factory. It's if you know Stardew Valley. I haven't played that one too much, but I know that it has a combat side to it, dungeon crawling aspect sort of thing, and then the farming, and then social life sim.
Yep.
And Rune Factory is literally all about that. I mean, it was the first one to really pioneer the, in my opinion, that sort of gameplay style, and not just that, but really improve on it. Rune Factory 3 is my favorite of the series, and Rune Factory 4 is more or less the same kind of game, except much more content. It simplified certain mechanics of the game. But let me digress. Let me actually talk about
I'll allow it. Digress.
What Rune Factory 4 is. Thank you. So, Rune Factory 4. You start off either as a boy or girl, and you find yourself on an airship with no memory. These two guys are interrogating you, and they want to know something, but you have no idea what the heck they're talking about. Shenanigans ensues, and you fall off the airship and crash land onto a dragon in this quaint little town that I cannot remember the name, even after spending 200 plus hours in. But I do remember the dragon's name. Her name is Venti, and she's surprised that someone crash landed on top of her and offers you a room in her little castle where you start to slowly meet all the new residents, or not all new, but all the residents of this town, and then find out what's going on outside of town, why the monsters are all acting up and everything. And then from there, you meet even more characters that could either be bachelors or bachelorettes. And so, gosh, where do I even begin? This game is just so much fun just because, for me, the big appeal is anything you do levels up. So if you're walking, you level up. You're running, you level up. And that impacts either how much stamina you use. What else? It impacts... can't remember
the never-ending carrot on a stick, essentially. There's always something you're working towards, which is nice. We should, this one sounds good. I played a ton of Stardew Valley with the missus over there. Maybe we'll, this one, it's still on Game Pass?
Yes. I don't know when it entered. I think it was this year, but I highly recommend it. It is. Yeah. I personally prefer 3, but 4 is still very good in its own right. And
when it's on Game Pass, it's a heck of a lot easier to recommend to people. So yeah, maybe as things are slowing down, maybe I'll take a look at that one, and you and I can get into it a little bit on another one of these.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Genghis. This is the inaugural episode. You're probably going to be on here a lot because you end up covering a ton of shit for us, and one of the people that can actually break down games. Like, I can't have Nick on. He doesn't play anything. He literally just plays Fortnite and Rocket League all the time. So, but thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, thank you.
Take care, and thank you, Jesse.
We're here with our fourth and final segment for the week. I am joined by Jared, a.k.a. Rare, who reviewed Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which stars Kazuma Kiryu, and it's interstitial. It's like between, for him, Yakuza 6 and Infinite Wealth, or is it Like a Dragon 7 and Infinite Wealth? I don't know. But you did the review. You liked the second half quite a bit, but you really dislike the first half, and you get to know what it's like when you're like me and you give something a lower score than the average and people flip out on you. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing real good. Surprisingly, have not seen any comments so far on the low review score, so I'm feeling
there were 2 horrible ones that did not make it through my You can call it censorship if you want, but my checking things out, they literally got pulled to the side by YouTube saying, hey, you probably want to check these comments out. And yeah, it was people just being real shitty. Not to the level of all the death threats I got for Armored Core or Redfall, but it was just a couple of people that were like, you just must suck at the game. And then it's funny because you put up the Infinite Wealth demo and everyone in there is like, oh my god, he actually did the QTE correct, finally.
Yeah, I noticed that with the demo gameplay.
There's one thing you'll notice as you doing more and more of this is that there are a lot of people that are very good at talking about games and stuff like that, but for some reason, I don't know why, their gameplay videos tend to not be good. And I do know early on for me, it could be nerve-wracking, especially if I was live. But trying to get good footage and use good footage but still tell the story of the game correctly could be tough, because sometimes you'd want to talk about mechanic and you just kept messing that mechanic up and you didn't have any great footage because you didn't get to do it until later in the game and you don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, so you nailed that one, and you're on here to join us in this inaugural episode of the Day One Game Pass show to talk about Like a Dragon Gaiden. It's a series near and dear to your heart, as far as I remember.
Yes, I first got introduced to the game back in 2013, into the series in 2013 by a very good friend of mine, and I've just been hooked onto the franchise ever since. I actually have imported before they started getting localized. I imported a few of the PS3 and PS4 games before they came to America, and so for me, you know, it's really nice to be able to be the one to cover another entry into Kiryu's saga, because Kiryu is genuinely one of my favorite characters of all time, and I also really like the soap opera, like, you know, it's like this Japanese soap opera style of storytelling that the Yakuza series is only able to really do.
There's one mechanic I've seen for Infinite Wealth that I just love, which is Kiryu is so strong that he can just break the turn meter and then just go on a rampage and start beating people up while they're waiting for their turns. Like, that type of smart stupid is why I love. Like, I got into it with Zero, which I think a lot of people did in the West. Really got into it with Yakuza 0. Started going back and seeing stuff, played a ton of Like a Dragon. Never actually got through all of it because this website's been way too much work. Played a bunch of Ishin, which you also did some coverage for us on, and yeah, yes. I'm there with you. There is a knowing, crazy dumbness mixed with really smart and occasionally very emotional beats, which are a lot of like my favorite things for the more goofy than serious anime style storytelling and things like this. And I am very much looking forward to jumping into this one, hopefully getting through a weak start to see the ending, and then getting into Infinite Wealth next year. But for Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, coming day one to Game Pass, it is reviewing decently, and I think you did have the feeling of the beginning dragged so hard for me, is how you worded it, that once you got to the second half and you really enjoyed it, just take us through, like, playing the game. How is it compared to some of the past ones, especially with Like a Dragon changing things up so much? It's a side story, so it's not the same. So please give us a quick rundown of Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. Long ass title.
So this takes place right after Yakuza 6. So there's a very brief catch up on the ending of Yakuza 6 whenever you start the game. And then it takes place directly before Yakuza Like a Dragon, or Yakuza 7. I'll just call it Yakuza 7 because that's much more coherent in my brain. And then it also does take place somewhat during Yakuza 7 as well, once you get more towards the end. But the first few hours of the game, it focuses a lot on just, you know, Kiryu is just this he's dead. He wants Kiryu, he wants his personality, he wants all that to be forgotten to the world, and people are figuring this out. It's literally just he puts on glasses and suddenly he's a different person. And it's a similar sounding name. And it's a thing for the series. It's stupid for a reason. That's why I bring up the Japanese soap opera stuff. In terms of the first 4 hours of the game, that's something I do really, really want to bring up. It's because when it comes down to the actual plot line, for during that first half, it didn't really feel like things were going. But it's also somewhat akin to how the first few hours of other Yakuza games are. Because, they want to introduce you to the side content and show you all this other stuff. They want you to see the Cabaret Club, which it is very strange to see a live action video for the Cabaret Club. But as you go on, but back on the story, for the actual story itself, you go ahead and you essentially just learn what Kiryu was doing during that time. And I really don't want to give any spoilers, because if I talk too much about it, it will spoil something.
Use your vague generalities as you can.
Yeah. I do believe that in terms, and I'm talking strictly about the second half of the game, because I feel like that's when the actual story starts. The second half of the game is some of the best in the entire series.
Because I remember when you were talking about it while you were playing, that first half was dragging so bad. You were like, man, unless this second half really picks up, I might be at like a 5. This is awful. But then, thankfully, it sounds like it really did.
It really does. It picks up. You start to finally feel like you're making progress, and you feel invested. And I managed to sit down and just stare, and my hands were gripped onto the controller, and I just could not put it down. And this is where I also feel like the shorter length of it being a bit more of a budget title.
They made it in 6 months, I think they said.
They wrote the story in 6 months. That article apparently is a bit lost in translation. So from what I've heard, yeah, it tends to happen with a lot of translated interviews. And people also got to remember, this game was announced back in November of last year, in 2022. So it's not possible for it to be made in 6 months.
I mean, they kind of did that with Cyberpunk, where they announced it 5 years before they started working on it.
Yeah, that's a different story. That's a whole different shebang.
They reuse so much in Yakuza or Like a Dragon that you already got like half the assets you need whenever you go into one anyways.
Yeah, I will say there are 2 cities in the game. You got Ijincho from Lost Judgment and Yakuza 7, but it's heavily cut down. You only can explore like a third of the map, and you only see it in the first chapter. You don't go back there for the rest of the game. It is really, really strange why they included it in the first place. There's no extra side content there or anything. Like it's just there for a little bit and then it's gone. For the rest of the game, you're in Sotenbori from Kiwami 2, and I believe. I was going to say, I don't remember if Sotenbori is in Yakuza 7.
I don't remember. I've played about 150 games since I played Yakuza 7. My memory's pretty faulty.
Yeah, I don't blame you. If you've played Kiwami 2, it's the same exact map, which that's to be expected. But there is this new little like I'll call it an underground area, because if you've played previous Yakuza games, there's always like an underground coliseum that you can go and fight in. This one doesn't actually take place underground. It takes place on this freighter, like this ship freighter. It's hidden. It's hidden out on the middle of the ocean, and it's called the castle, and it's a literal castle like on this ship with a bunch of pretty lights and such. If you've seen the trailer, you more than likely would have seen it. Out of every other entry that has ever had the Colosseum, this does have the best iteration of it. Mainly because you actually don't get to just control Kiryu at the Colosseum. You get to control a bunch of other different characters.
That's interesting.
If you pre-order the game, or get the DLC after it comes out, I don't know when that DLC is coming out. Sega hasn't said, but with the DLC, you can actually play as Majima, Saejima, or Daigo. Series stables. There are a few very special characters that you can unlock if you do the sub stories, and there are also these like bigger sub stories that are attached to the Colosseum. So you do get a lot of content from the Colosseum. Of course, you got your own typical other mini games as well, like mahjong, shogi, that are in every other Yakuza game. There are arcade games. I believe Daytona USA 2, which is actually really, really big because that has never been ported outside of arcades. It's the first ever home console port of Daytona USA 2. Now, unfortunately, I'm not really big on the arcades in the Yakuza games. But that's the only one I know off the top of my head. But yeah, there is still quite a bit in terms of side content. I put about 20 hours into the game so far, and I still have I think I'm 75% of the way done with the side content.
It's funny, for most games, people be like, "Oh wow, that's pretty long for like a Yakuza game lately," though they do vary. But some of the ones lately have been very long if you want to get everything done.
Yeah, it took me 60 hours to get 100% in Judgment, and in Lost Judgment, I had to tap out at 100 hours. I was like 80% through, and I couldn't do it. I think I was just burned out. But yeah, there for being a budget entry, there is still a lot of content like outside of the main story. And I feel like that is actually where the real meat of the game is. That is where I was having a lot of fun. I'm not having to think about, I'm playing through the main story to get to the Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth demo, which that's a lot of fun. But I really wanted to play more Gaiden. And
it's such a weird thing to have to beat the freaking game to get to a demo too, especially when they had such strict embargoes from when we got code to when you could put up the gameplay of the demo. It's like,
I actually will be honest. I feel like that did have a bit of an impact on my feeling of the game, because I think the demo could have been a separate download, because it comes with it. It's an over 80 gigabyte install on PC.
Jesus.
And it's 60 gigs on console. And here's the funnier part. On PC, it's the pre-rendered videos, they're 1080p. But on console, they're 4K.
Okay. Sure.
So it doesn't make any sense to me how the consoles could have a smaller file size and yet still have higher quality assets. That's just me. Sega, please.
But it sounds like you have a complicated relationship on this one, where it was, I could tell listening to you or reading your words that you were quite bummed out, and it felt like a real drag early. and then you stopped talking other than saying, like you just stopped typing. I was like, ooh, I wonder if he's just really gotten into it. And then it sounds like it very much did grab you once you were able to get past that initial struggle.
Yes. Oh my God. I almost cried. No, I rarely cry in video games, but it is one of my favorite endings to a video game.
Very high praise indeed.
It is, and that's why, like, when it comes down to probably the disparity between my score and that, but like I feel like if half of your game is a drag, then I feel like that's a very big reflection on the first impression.
And we do strive to use the entire scoring, like a 6 for us it's okay. It had some issues. Like not a 6 for us is trash and one of the worst things of the year, like a lot of other sites that tend to use. For a Like a Dragon side game, that sounds like if you can get through that initial start, maybe some people are okay with slower or more of a drag starts. It is definitely still worth checking out in the long run, especially because if you got Game Pass, you don't have to pay. It's not free. I won't pretend it's free, but you don't have to pay anything extra for it. So it's got that going for it.
Yeah, and if you're playing through it, not necessarily just to go and play the demo, you're gonna have a wonderful time. Like, there's no doubt about it. You're going in because you want to play Kiryu's side story, not just because you want to just rush through it to get to the demo. Mm-hmm. I already know that a few people are going to be doing that, and they're going to hate the game for it. Yeah. But if you go ahead and you just take that out of your mind and you play through it, I do think that if you're a fan of the series, you're going to have a great time.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Man. Yeah. It's one of those ones I want to check out. It's just like when can I do it? Because it's been so busy and doing different things. But man, I was just talking with Genghis earlier about Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Trilogy, and now this is another one I'm going to add on and maybe do a stream of or something. But hey, that's gonna wrap up the final segment for our inaugural episode of game coverage. I'll be back in a second to just give a rundown of what we know that's coming to Game Pass the rest of the year. But for now, Jared, thank you so much for joining me. That was a very informative and a ton of fun.
Oh, thank you, Jesse. Thank you for having me.
I will definitely be having you more, I'm sure, because games never stop coming to this darn service. To wrap things up with this week's inaugural episode of the XboxEra Day 1 Game Pass show, we'll quickly go over what we know is left for the month of November. On November 17th, there is Persona 5 Tactica, which is a grid-based strategy game in the Persona 5 universe, most likely to be reviewed for our team by Mr. Genghis himself. So keep an eye out for that one, where we should be on the list. I don't know if or when we'll get it, but hopefully we do. The only other thing for the entire month that we know is Roller Drome coming on November 28th. That hit PlayStation 5. It was either earlier this year or last year. Decently reviewed. I believe it was around 80s or so. People like that game. Other than that, don't really know. The only other game that's got a date is SteamWorld Build on December 1st. And typically December is pretty darn slow. They normally do one drop. So we will see. Keep an eye out on the site. I will have a Day 1 video out as soon as I can. I have no idea what's going to be added outside of Persona 5 Tactica and Roller Drome. But hey, we will be back. We're hoping to do these videos twice every month. A mix of old and new. December might be mostly old. And we will see you next time here on the XboxEra Day 1 Game Pass show. And you can always go to day1.xboxera.com for all your Game Pass needs. We'll see you next time. Ciao for now.